Something of a contrast.
Scoop. So Holly, what we know about this is that this is the film that is based on Sam McAllister's, memoir about how the whole Prince Andrew car crash interview to end all car crash
Oh
interviews.
wow, is it?
With Emily
Yeah,
Matilda.
with
Oh,
Emily Maitlis, how this whole thing
Wow.
came together, starring Rufus Sewell with some amazing, amazing makeup work that makes him actually look like Prince Andrew.
it's impressive.
Yes. So tell us about Scoop. Tell us about Scoop.
So the background for those who may or may not be aware, King Charles has a younger brother called Andrew, who is the second son, third child of the late Queen Elizabeth II.
Yes.
He is the Duke of York. He is married in the 1980s, a woman called Sarah Ferguson, and has two children with her. He served in the Navy during the Falklands and is generally considered to be not the sharpest tool in the box.
Not after this interview.
Doesn't arguably have any particular great purpose in life, but has worked, as I say, worked in the loosest sense of the word, served as a trade envoy of some description for the UK internationally. He is also somewhat renowned for taking helicopter trips for unnecessary purposes. He
was a helicopter pilot when he was
a
in the
helicopter
forces.
pilot.
That's what he
when
was,
he
a
was in the
helicopter pilot.
forces, but he does just take private jets and helicopters to get places when they're perfectly reasonable.
Because his mummy is the queen.
Yes, was no more.
Yeah.
Very dead. So many years ago, he became friends with a woman called Ghislaine Maxwell, who was the daughter of the late Robert Maxwell, and through her he met Jeffrey Epstein, convicted sex offender, paedophile, child trafficker, rapist, who some years ago now committed suicide in prison. When
Or did he?
or did he? When Epstein was arrested, people were aware that he and Andrew had been friends, and Andrew's circle were keen to do what they could to try to salvage his reputation, which had taken a significant beating, and it through the connections of Sam McAllister, played by in this by Billy Piper. He was connected. His team were connected in with Newsnight, who were able to step in swiftly after Epstein's arrest in I forget which year, which led to an interview between Andrew and where's my mind?
Emily Maitlis.
Thank you. Whose podcast I listen to multiple times a week, between Andrew and Emily Maitlis, who is played by Gillian Anderson.
Yes.
The interview is renowned for having been an absolute car crash.
I did watch it live at the time, actually. When it was broadcast, we did sit and watch it at the time.
I haven't been able to watch it.
I've never watched it. I've just heard the things that were said, and I was like, no.
And I mean, they recreate various bits of it in the film, and it contains immortal things about having taken his daughter Beatrice to a party at Pizza Express in Woking. For any non-British listeners, is a somewhat bizarre place for many people to have taken their children to, particularly a member of the royal family. And I don't know anyone who's wanted to go to Pizza Express in Woking, other than those who might now want to go to say they've been to Pizza Express in Woking.
they must have so much business.
I believe they have done quite well out of it. There was also a whole piece about the fact that he apparently can't sweat, courtesy of incident in the Falklands.
Yeah.
And much of the interview hinges on the fact that he was not able to be obviously aware of the issues with his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein, and situations with a young woman whom he was photographed with, or whom there is a photograph of him with, whom he claims never to have met. So there's a lot of politics that hangs behind it. The film is, yes, based upon the book by Sam McAllister, and is very well put together. It is well acted. There is interestingly another version coming out on
Amazon Prime,
which is based upon Emily Nicholas's experience.
Yeah.
Which will also be interesting to see. But I'd say on balance, it was very well put together. And my big takeaway, which I didn't expect, is that I felt dreadfully sorry for Andrew because he's such an idiot. And I just thought, I don't know. It's just, it was quite fascinating because I didn't, that nothing is, it's not forgivable, but you just look at him and go,
well, the thing is like this is directed by a guy called Philip Martin, who has directed quite a few episodes of The Crown. And when you watch The Crown, because my wife and I have just finished watching the final season of The Crown, and Andrew's depiction, it is consistent with Andrew's depiction in The Crown of being this like really, really privileged rich boy who is totally oblivious to how he is perceived, or he's totally oblivious to what he does has any effect on anybody else around him. And yes. The thing is, and I always, before this interview happened, I would always be like, people who would be like, like burn the royal family or anything like. I always used to be like, oh, come on, for goodness sake, be a bit kind, But this interview, you're just kind of going, oh my God, this guy is totally not self-aware.
No, and I wouldn't even like to guarantee that he would be consciously lying about anything. He seems so oblivious to everybody around him that it is perfectly possible. If he says I've never met this person, and yet there's photographic evidence of them having met, it's perfectly possible they might have met, and he's not lying. He just has absolutely
no recollection of it
because it just
it doesn't register. It doesn't register on his radar.
It's important.
Yeah, because I mean, I haven't seen Scoop off, but I did watch the interview, and I think I've come from a sort of the generation, so I do remember Prince Andrew, so I have a slightly different perspective of him, because obviously he was the war hero when I was growing up because of this thing in the war there, Falklands, and so that's, I feel sort of slightly more sympathetic because, he was enormously popular at one time. It seems hard to believe now.
I mean, I remember that as well.
But in the sort of mid-'80s, he was enormously popular. He was like, people had like posters of him and Prince Edward. Well, in like, no kidding. In magazines.
Yeah,
like
no, I know. No. There
were
mum,
posters of Prince Andrew and Prince Edward.
My mum liked Andrew. My sister liked Andrew. They was all like, he was like
people liked Andrew.
He was like the big teeth,
Yeah, he was sort of always seemed a bit jolly, a bit likeable, a bit a bit of a fun guy. But
it's funny. The Duke of Gloucester's always seemed to be the sort of second in lines to the throne. Always seem to, and I think they have through history. They've always been the bad boys. Yeah, is it York? Yeah, sorry. Yeah, Duke of York. Yeah, it's the second one. Yeah,
so Gloucester is his cousin.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, but yeah, the always the Duke of York. They were all through. I mean, I think because. Who did you have? You had Henry. You had Henry V, didn't you, as well? Was he? Because he wasn't supposed to.
Henry VIII.
Henry VIII was another one.
Well, so second son, yeah.
So those people were not really groomed for the same with George VI, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So,
he was not ever.
What I'm saying is but he wasn't bad really. But he smoked a few, I should imagine. That was probably his only
vice. But it's interesting.
But...
Yeah, I think I'm interested by this. I haven't watched Scoop yet because I was interested by it because I do remember the interview. I remember feeling slightly sorry for him because I do, as you say, I don't think he wasn't lying. I do think he probably, when they say you obviously met this woman, I think he probably was genuinely like, I don't recall her, because I imagine if he was a duke and he is quite someone who's very aware of his position.
This is also somebody who is alleged to have slept with on more than one occasion. I think it's
so that's the allegation.
I think nonetheless it's also possible that could be both could still be true as well, which is
it just doesn't recall someone. Anyway, if you met a pretty blonde teenager, like 20 years ago, it's like it's possible that he probably didn't remember who she was. It's just another pretty blonde teenager.
I'm sorry, but for me, the line of "I don't sweat."
Yeah,
That,
yeah.
God,
There's also,
reality is
there's
just
also,
funny.
it's to me the one bit that I remember, right? Because I mean, I saw the interview, and the only one bit I can remember, he said, trying to remember, he said, "I do remember we went for pizza," and I'm like, that's the bit I remember. I don't know, I just feel like the pizza gate, you know. It's just like I remember
He does remember that, 'cause
Woking.
it's
We
probably
went,
something that doesn't happen very often.
we went for pizza, yeah. So, but I mean, I think again, I think it sort of cuts both ways. I'm pretty certain that the woman that bought all the stuff and that was after a few bucks, you know. And I mean, and she got it, didn't she? Let's be fair.
well, yeah, but I mean, the.
I
I mean, do you not?
safely say,
Well, that is my. Oh, sorry, Holly, go ahead.
just going to say, we can safely say that regardless, it was everything around this was, as a bare minimum, highly unsavory.
Yes.
Okay.
And we
Yeah.
can't,
Yeah.
none of us were there, so none of us know for sure, but there is sufficient to say that it's, yeah, thoroughly distasteful.
Okay. One last thing. Because it's my want as the host, I will get the last word. One last thing before we get you to give you your star rating for this is, I still maintain, right, that in the royal family, like the woman who is played by, I think, Keely Hawes in this film, who was his press secretary. That's a woman who must be switched on, and she must have known what Andrew was like, and must have known that putting him in front of someone like Emily Maitlis was a terrible idea. And so in my head, if I'm gonna believe any conspiracy theory, it's that this was the royal family putting Andrew out to pasture and saying, let's just get rid of him.
Yeah, get
because
him out of the way.
because after this interview, there's no way he's going to be representing us in public again. And I think because there's no way they didn't know he was like that. And yet they put him on international TV to do this on an interview, which you can still see on the BBC News channel on YouTube.
And it was a very sympathetic interview. Emily Maitlis
It wasn't hard by any means. She was no Jeremy Paxman, was she, when she was
no, she
interviewing him?
was, I mean, you know, she gave him sufficient rope to hang himself, which is probably an inappropriate thing to say,
Yeah.
given 16. But
okay. How many stars? Because this is going to devolve into a conspiracy theory about.
I'm going to give it a high 3. I think it could stretch to a 4, but I'm going to veer towards the high 3.
Okay, cool. So
I'm trying to be tough on myself and not be
not be so happy with the you get a 3, you get a 4, you get a 4.
love you all.
No.
It's good. It's really worth watching. I really recommend you all watch it. I'm really interested in your thoughts on it, but and I'm really looking forward to seeing the Emily Maitlis one, which I have a feeling I will like more.